Yo! How's it going, everybody? Back by popular demand is the whiteboard. I've been trying to figure out how to work this back into the routine, and I think in the meantime, what I'm going to do is take particular mainstream articles that I want to dive into a little bit deeper than in my normal videos and slap them up on this board here and discuss them. And in this particular episode, we're going to discuss that narrative that really flew around a bunch of different mainstream media websites a few days ago, talking about dimming the sun being the answer to global warming. We're going to analyze the CNN version of this article. That's the one I saw the most. And then I want to talk to you guys about why. Why do they spray us? So CNN says dimming the sun, the answer to global warming. And it says scientists are proposing an ingenious but as yet unproven way to tackle climate change, spraying sun-dimming chemicals into the Earth's atmosphere. The research by scientists at Harvard and Yale universities, wow, surprising right there, right? Harvard and Yale, published in that journal, proposes using a technique known as stratospheric aerosol injection, which they say could cut the rate of global warming in half. The technique would involve spraying large amounts of sulfate particles into the Earth's lower stratosphere at altitudes as high as 12 miles. The scientists proposed delivering the sulfates with specially designed high-altitude aircraft, balloons, or large naval-style guns. I guess they just want to shoot all the chemicals in the atmosphere. Bang, bang, bang. Then it goes on to say, despite the technology being undeveloped, with no existing aircraft suitable for adaptation, the researchers say that developing a new proposed-built tanker with substantial payload capabilities would neither be technologically difficult nor prohibitively expensive. They estimate the total cost of launching a hypothetical system in 15 years' time at around $3.5 billion, with running costs of $2.25 billion a year over a 15-year period. The report does, however, acknowledge that the technique is purely hypothetical, and that's as much as I'm going to read of it. Let's discuss. So the goal of this article, this whole narrative that was pushed around a few days ago, was to do this right here. It's attempting to normalize shit they've been doing in secret for decades. And it's not really even a secret, just look up. Look up on any given day, blue sky day, especially if you're on the West Coast, and you will see all sorts of stratospheric aerosol injections all over the place. They linger all day. They turn your mostly sunny day into a partly cloudy day. It's not really that much of a secret. And they've been doing it for a long, long time. They've been doing it for decades already. So trying to say it's hypothetical or they don't have aircraft to do it, or it's an unknown, unproven, all this stuff. It's just jargon trying to claim, oh, it's not happening. They want to normalize it for the public so then they can start rolling out the claim that they're just beginning these things that have already been going on a long, long time. Basically, the public, the mass public, is waking up too quick to their plans, so they gotta rush it into the public domain real quick in all these articles and trying to claim they haven't been doing it, but they're gonna start doing it, and then when they say they start doing it, then the public goes, oh, all those things, they're already there. So they're attempting to normalize it. And if you want research in these stratospheric aerosol injections or these geoengineering programs, look up geoengineeringwatch.org. That is a site that's run by Dane Wigington. I've done an audio interview with him before. It's on this channel. I'll make one of those little cards pop up, or you can just go check out his YouTube or the website itself, geoengineeringwatch.org. And quick note, that's actually a very important distinction to make. Calling them chemtrails is actually not a technical term, and in fact, if you search chemtrails as opposed to geoengineering, you'll find a lot of sort of crackpot, ghetto-style research, and it's often thrown in with a lot of other weird stuff, and it's very easy to discredit. That's why the chemtrail notion is pushed, and it's actually pushed by the deep state, is because they can discredit it easier when people are saying chemtrails. And actually, you can find the terminology of geoengineering in official government documentation from various 3-4 letter agencies going back decades. So they don't want you searching geoengineering because it's more technical. You can find actual documentation on it, find legitimate research on it. They want you searching chemtrails. So look up geoengineering when you're researching this phenomenon. And there's a great resource to do so. But the point of this video is not to prove to you that geoengineering exists and what it is, blah, blah, blah. That's been done. Pointing you to it here. You can go to other resources where you can find information on the subject. What I want to talk to you here is about why. Why do they do it? Why have they been doing it for decades? And we're going to go through a few different reasons as to why. But first, it's really for this right here, overshadowing the sub-reasons we're going to go into, full spectrum dominance. That's really the reason that they do many, if not all, the agendas they try to push into the public, whether it's something that has to do with engineering food or vaccinations or some pharmaceutical agenda, or whether it's something in regards to the financial system or the oil industry or the defense industry or the intelligence industry or a mainstream media narrative. You know, whatever the case is, it's for full spectrum dominance. They want money, they want power, and at the spiritual level, they want to siphon our energy. They feed off of that. So that's why they're doing it. Now let's get into the sub-reasons. Number one, physical and mental control. So when they're spraying, oftentimes day in and day out, and most oftentimes over dense population centers, when they're spraying all of the heavy metals, the aluminum, the barium, the strontium, the iron oxides, the mycoplasma, good term to look up right there, mycoplasma, their nanoparticles, whatever the hell else, who knows, is even in those stratospheric aerosol injections. When they're spraying those day in and day out over dense population centers, we breathe it. We're breathing that stuff. That stuff is laying onto our food, onto the crops, absorbing into the plants that we later eat. So we're getting tons of these heavy metals, of these nanoparticles into our bodies if we are breathing them in, and we don't take the necessary precautions to detoxify our bodies to get that stuff out of us. So if we're breathing this stuff in and it's lodging into your organs and into your nervous system, that is weakening the hell out of your body. All of that aluminum. Aluminum is very toxic. It's not supposed to be in us in that particular form. So it's weakening your organ systems, your hormonal systems, but especially it's weakening your nervous system. Weak bodies equal weak minds. I often say, and many others do, your mind and your body are the same damn thing. They are directly connected. You have many aspects to yourself, a spiritual, emotional, mental, physical self. They're all connected. So if these powers in control, if they can weaken our bodies, they weaken our minds. And the minds of the public that are weakened are not going to be able to see the agendas. They're not going to be able to know what to do to get out of the control systems, or let alone fight back the control systems. So they want weak-bodied people to be weak-minded people because then they're easier to control. You can see there. So they want physical and mental control over us so we don't fight back. We don't rise up. We don't wake up to their game. That's reason number one. Reason number two is environmental control. Basically, weather warfare. Dane Wigington does a lot of great explanation of the weather warfare component of these geoengineering programs. I'll just give you a brief version right here. So first aspect of the weather warfare, let's talk about the drought and the rain component of it. So with these stratospheric aerosol ejections, again, that they've already been doing for a long, long time, it causes drier conditions and rainier conditions depending on where they spray in the weather track. So what they do, at least in this country of America, is dry out the West Coast and wetten the East Coast. Let me explain. So on the West Coast, if you live in California, you know there's a hell of a lot of geoengineering aerosol sprays that they already do there. So along the West Coast, where they spray, they're spraying all sorts of these nanoparticles, these particulates, into the atmosphere, everywhere. And what that does is that it does not allow clouds to form in that area. The reason being is because when they're spraying trillions of extra little particulates into the atmosphere that add to the particulates that are already there, then the water vapor that's in the atmosphere that would normally attach to the natural particulates, it has too many particulates to attach to. So clouds just don't form. So it makes drier conditions in the west, but then as all of these particulates begin to move along the weather track, so they move east into the heartland of America, basically, and onto the east coast, more clouds form. Because remember, there's trillions and trillions of more little particulates into the atmosphere. So once enough water vapor does begin to attach to each little particulate, and then visible clouds form, they become huge freaking storms, right? How big are the hurricanes we're getting these days? Not like they used to be 20, 30 years ago. Not only that, but the electrification of these storms. How are the lightning storms you guys are seeing in the Midwest and on the East Coast? Much more massive than they used to be, right? Well, if you're spraying tons and tons of aluminum, electrically conductive metals into the atmosphere, yeah, you're going to get a little more lightning. Not only that, but the hurricanes are going to get bigger. The whole East Coast is awfully wet. I talk to people on the East Coast quite a bit, and they're like, man, it's so wet over here. Yeah, reason being is geoengineering programs. It's also the reason the wildfires in California are so damn bad, because it's so dry over there. The reason it's so dry, boom. The deep state likes to say, oh, it's man-made climate change. Well, yeah, the climate is kind of man-manipulated, but it's man-manipulated from these secret programs, not from frickin' carbon being put out by cars. Shoot, volcanoes put out far more carbon than humans ever have. This is the reason the climate is changing. This and many natural, galactic solar components. But hell, geoengineering programs, big reason. So anyway, back to the weather tracks. East Coast gets more wet, and you'll also notice the hurricanes. So when the hurricanes form out in the Atlantic and they begin to move inland towards the land, they'll spray along the track of the hurricane to intensify it. So the deep state, they can't create storms, but what they can do is amplify them, intensify them. And they do that one way with their aerosol spraying. They do it along the hurricane, so the hurricane then moves into it, and like I said, the whole particulate thing, more particles for water vapor to attach to, storm gets huge. So that's basically what happens with the drought and rain, West Coast dry, East Coast wet, because they spray. Now let's talk about the electromagnetic frequency component. So in short, another way they control the environment through these geoengineering aerosol spraying programs is that what these sprays essentially do is when they're spraying and spraying and spraying, all this stuff gets in the atmosphere, that creates a buffer, we could call it, or a medium for their electromagnetic frequency technologies to propagate with. You ever look up on any random day and there's some clouds in the atmosphere and you see the waviness, the waves forming in the clouds, you're like, man, what's HARP doing today, right? HARP or NexRad. You can look into that one. That's kind of a newer version of HARP. HARP is the High Altitude something resonance project. I forget what the acronym stands for. Basically what the microwave technologies they use to control the weather with. And HARP, I believe, is offline, or it's changed hands recently, but it's one of the old names for the programs that they ran decades ago. You got to understand, any name that's leaked into the public or anything we hear is probably decades old information. All of the stuff that's in operation now probably has new program names, new technology, and it's just black booked. So, who knows what the name is, but I would venture to guess they definitely still have the technologies. HARP, NexRad, or their Gwen towers, whatever the case is, this aerosol spraying gives these technologies a medium to work with, to propagate into, to make them more effective. Okay, so we went over physical and mental control, we went over environmental control, the different aspects of it. Now let's go into spiritual control. And this, in my opinion, is the deepest reason, the realist reason, why the deep state, the powers in control, whatever you want to call them, do these geoengineering programs, why they've been doing them for decades and decades. And by spiritual control, what I particularly mean is that we, you watching this video, me, we all have incarnated at this specific time in human history, in our planetary history, to witness a quantum shift upon our planet, to literally evolve into the next stage of human evolution. And with these aerosol spraying, with all this stuff being sprayed in our atmosphere, it's already dimming the sun. It's dimming the sun with an electrically conductive layer. Remember, we live in an electric universe. We are electric beings. We're beings of light already. Our DNA emits light. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. But we are electric beings that are here on this planet, in this electric universe, and we're here to evolve, to jump into the next stage, to become a fourth density civilization. So with this dimming buffer that's already been around our planet for decades and decades, it's not allowing the particular cosmic energies or solar energies to get into our atmosphere, to literally activate our DNA, our junk DNA. It's not activating our DNA, it's disallowing these energies to activate our consciousness. It's not literally letting us activate into that next stage of human, that new kind of human that we should already be progressing into. You see? That sounds new agey, that whole, oh, we're here to what, ascend into this next, this new species. It sounds kind of new agey, but trust me, it's not. They're pretty much every ancient people, ancient scripture, biblical text, whatever people you want to reference from our past, Indians, Native Americans, Christian scriptures, even sciences of today. It's all showing that our whole solar system is moving into a new region of the galaxy, a more energetic region, and that's going to have an effect on our sun. Then it's going to have an effect on us and our planet. And we're essentially waiting for our sun to take that quantum step. And then that's going to flip our electromagnetic poles of this Earth and have a lot of effects on us, blah, blah, blah. So basically, it's real stuff, and the elite are trying to prevent our evolution with it all. They don't want us to wake up, right? If we start upping our consciousness a little bit, activating some latent abilities within us, well, end game for their game, right? They don't want that. So anyway, let's get into the very last thing I want to discuss with you guys here in this video, the whole being of light thing, because this is just something that fascinates me, and I love the etymology of words. If you actually understand where words come from, gives you a whole new understanding on them and what they're all about. So let's talk about aluminum. Get this to right here. Aluminum, one of those metals, probably the most important metal that they spray in their aerosol injections. Aluminum. I was talking about us being electric beings, beings of light. Our DNA literally communicates with light, cell to cell. Look into the work of a man named Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. I'll link a ViewZone article, if I can find it, down below in this video. Fascinating article talking about how he figured out that our DNA literally emits photons, emits light. Our DNA communicates with light. So we are beings of light. Scientific fact. If you look at the word aluminum and break down the etymology of it, it's fascinating. Aluminum, you could break down into lumina. Lumina is a Latin form of the word light. Lumens. That's how you measure the brightness of a light bulb. So lumen is light. A in Latin can often mean a prefix that means anti. So anti-mer. Anti-light. So aluminum breaks down into the word anti-light. So that's why they're freaking spraying so much of it over our heads. That's why they're injecting it into us. That's why they shoot. What's aluminum not in these days? It's put in our food as an anti-caking agent. So much of our food is packaged in aluminum that's leaching into our foods. I already mentioned they inject it into us, spray it over our heads. Gosh, it's crazy, right? Well, you can see why. They are desperately trying to avoid the fact that we are waking up, that we are here to evolve. They don't want us to evolve. So that's why they've been spraying us like bugs for decades, because they don't want us to connect. If we increase our consciousness abilities a little bit, man, we start connecting. Let me tell you, especially mentally, mental connections with people. And the powers that be, don't want that. So that's the deepest reason in my eyes that they spray us. And that might be new to you, but it's fun. It's very fun to look into. And last thing I want to make note of, and then we'll end it. This is why, all these reasons I just went over with you, it's very important to detoxify yourself, to keep yourself healthy. I've done videos on detoxification before, probably a long time ago. You can search them. I'll do new ones coming up. Might be my next one I do with the whiteboard. There's also hundreds and hundreds of great health websites and resources out there that you can research and look into to educate yourself on how to detoxify, keep yourself detoxified, just live a healthy lifestyle. It's more important than ever to do that, okay? More important than ever. I'm not writing all this, telling you all this to scare you. I'm doing it to educate you so you can empower yourself. So you know how much we are held back. So you know how much potential we really have, okay? We're held back a lot. We have a lot of amazing potential at our disposal. So when we get healthy, when we become the natural humans that we're meant to be, we can reach that potential. So that's why I'm telling you this, so you can then use this information as an opportunity to empower yourself, detoxify yourself, get yourself healthier, get away from all of the electromagnetic frequencies. That one's definitely important. Get away from the electrosmog, the concrete jungle, you know, get out into nature, ground, put your bare hands, bare feet on the earth, absorb the free-flowing electrons from the earth, and tap back into those natural resonant frequencies of the earth. It's very important. Very important. It'll help connect you with nature, you with God, the divine universe, whatever you want to call it. And there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Also, you can let me know in the comments what sort of whiteboard videos you guys want me to do in the future. And remember to subscribe to this channel. Click that little notification bell. I sure hope they send you those notifications. And take care, guys. That's it for this one.